Hey everyone, Dave Putz here from JKP Holdings. Alongside me, as always, Mr. Nathan Turner. How are
Hello,
you?
hello. Doing well, doing well.
Awesome, man. It's been another week, going back-to-back weeks here. It's been a fun fall. How are things with you? I saw some pictures of you doing a little bit of traveling with your son.
Yes, I'm finally doing what you asked and what you told me to do for a couple of years now, getting a little more active on social media. So that's an example. Yeah, I was able to go and take off for a few days with my son for a camping trip that he's got. He got into this program where he gets to do all this outdoor learning stuff, which is so cool. And so I'm happy to be able to volunteer
That's
and to have a
awesome.
business where I can do that. That's been awesome.
Yeah. So you good point you said there, right? You're doing something you can do anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, and kind of have things set up in systems. But what we're finding out is a lot of people who are on the other side of this space of doing seller finance and owner finance and creative finance, all this kind of world, it's a little bit different for them, right? Because they're doing marketing and they're doing all kinds of different stuff.
Yeah.
And we get all that, but we want to be the bang for a lot of these people. And a lot of people don't know about us.
Right.
Um, so we wanted to dive more into it. And this year, if you're new to us, this will be on YouTube, our podcast, everything else. We focus this year truly on connecting note buyers with originators, seller finance, all kinds of different way of creating notes.
Yeah.
What is your
Fascinating. And
yeah? What's your been your
I,
experience, your thoughts?
it's been interesting. And we've been talking about this all year. Just yesterday, I had two different phone calls with two different people that talked about how they're originating some fairly large numbers. One guy's talking about 30 to 40 a month, um, where they're originating just a bunch of notes and they want to sell them. So, I mean, it's out there. People are looking to sell this stuff. And most of the people that I've talked to, they're willing to tailor make it
Yeah.
to what we're looking for, which is perfect. That's exactly
Yep.
what we're looking for. So there's tons out there. I think we're going to see more and more of that as interest rates continue to stay high,
Yep.
maybe rise. But I think we're going to see more and more seller finance come out over
Yeah,
time here.
absolutely. And I think for us, we want to educate them, but also learn from them as well.
Yeah.
So it's a two-way street. So we can kind of really grasp what you guys are doing so we can tailor our business, but also help you tailor your business to unload, recoup, cash out, whatever word you want to use to get some of
Mhm.
that money back out. So for that feature, I think working together as a team is going to be our biggest um, asset moving forward.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so one of the things we've learned in the past year, which has been really interesting, this idea of what is a correct note on your world. Because remember, we bought bank notes, everyone,
Yeah.
for years, and we never
Yeah.
worried about any of that kind of stuff. So we wanted to make sure that we understand what is to create a new note. And we've connected with some of the best experts in the space who are creating and basically running teams of creations of notes, wraps, subject twos, seller finance, creative finance, and getting a good understanding of what you guys do. So it's awesome. So I encourage you guys to share our content with those people in that space.
Yeah, definitely.
Seller finance, I think we estimated a $32 billion was created last year.
It's a
Holy
huge
cow.
industry. Yeah. And there's no slowing down. Like I say, I think we're going to see more and more of that coming out.
Yes.
It's tough to get a loan at a bank. And if you're not able to, seller financing is a really great way to go. Not to say you're a bad borrower, not to say that there's something wrong with those kinds of borrowers that get seller finance. It's another option.
Yeah.
And speaking as a self-employed person, man, it's so much easier to deal with a person than it is to deal with the bank a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys are out there. Please keep in touch with us. For you note buyers, I'm hoping that the information we've given you has been useful for you, right? And if it hasn't, or there's something else you want to hit on, let us know. So one of the reasons we've been asking is, why are we shifting from the bank to the seller finance world? And you hit on one thing, dealing with a hedge fund or bank is not as negotiable a lot of times as a
Right.
seller finance.
Yeah.
But the other feature is the fact that these loans are created at 10, 11, 12%, where we're just having a trouble getting those loans from a bank because last 3, 5 years have been really low interest rates.
Yeah. And we're always buying, our main goal of note investing is yield. So
Yep.
we're always just going after yield. So if we've got a note written at 3 or 4%, the discount that we have to work in there is huge. And so it
Yes.
makes it really difficult to get a deal done. So when we see these notes being written at 9, 10, 11%, that's much easier for us to get a deal done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we want to make sure we understand you guys, right? So when you have a question, let us know as a note buyer, right? We're trying to work on how to buy wraps and stuff like that. It's been a little bit more challenging. But one of the key features that most people don't get is when you're creating these loans, and I don't know why it's not taught as much as it should be, the creation of the note is just as important as the details inside the note.
Absolutely.
That when you guys are creating these notes and these borrowers are owner occupants, meaning they bought the property, they're going to live in it, and they took a loan out on it.
Mhm.
We've run into too many people out there who are teaching or learning that these seller finance paper needs to be passing the Dodd-Frank laws and passing all the regulations that was put forth back in 2006, 7, 8 that changed the industry and said, listen, no longer can we have this happen. And we want to make sure that you guys get that, because if you don't, you're going to have problems moving forward.
Mhm.
And what people, I don't think are getting is that the last 3, 4 years, portfolios are all performing. When
Right.
things are good, there's no problems.
Yeah.
It's when they go bad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's only a problem until it's not a problem until it's a problem. But then when it's a problem, it's a big problem. And if you haven't
Yes.
done it right up front, you're going to run into some really difficult
Yep.
challenges going forward, which could cost you a lot of money, a lot of heartache. And so
Yeah.
do it right up front. And there are ways to do that. And so
Yeah.
that's part of who
Yeah.
we got on today is
Yeah.
talking about
Let's
that and
bring
how to
him.
get
Let's
that done.
bring Mark on. Mark, man, it is a pleasure to have you on with us. I think that the information you've shared with us just in the recent couple months has been amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. Appreciate that, David and Nate. It's a pleasure to be here and to address your audience. It's always good to be among like-minded people, and
Yes.
we all have the same kind of approach to things. I
Yep.
was always the loner out there in most of my career, and it's nice to see there's others that kind of have the same mindset that I do.
Yeah. So let's back up here a second. We got introduced to Mark. We do a private call on Wednesdays with a bunch of really smart people. And Mark came on the set like a bull out of the chute, because he really said to us, guys, I've been doing this for a long time. The knowledge, the experience, and the wealth of information. And we may not always agree on certain situations, but you bring the facts up and say, this is what the law states, and you play by the law. And that's extremely useful. So, Mark, how did you get introduced to this? What do you guys do currently? And how many states are you doing it in?
So again, thank you for having me. The my background actually is primarily in the private money or hard money arena. I cut my teeth back actually in the 70s. That's when I started in this field. So I'm an old fart from that perspective. And the first 10 years of my career, all I did was hard money lending. I didn't know what an FHA or VA or conventional loan was. I just
Wow.
cut my teeth on the private money and worked in that arena, and then expanded a number of years later into the more traditional market. So we just kind of added that component to our business and started my own company in '86 and ran it for over 25 years before I merged it into my current operation. So it's been something that I've been working on for a long time. It's basically my career, and my passion is more on the private money or hard money side of things. And after Dodd-Frank came out in effective 2010, that's when things really started to change. After the housing crisis in 08, rules started to come out and everything changed as of 2010. And one of the things that I noticed was that I figured that the Dodd-Frank Act was I kind of call it the Loan Originator Employment Act, because it gave us loan originators an opportunity to participate in this world, in this seller carryback world, because Dodd-Frank requires to hire loan originators in a number of cases. So we started to play in that arena and just have expanded it. We do RMLOs, which is the Residential Mortgage Loan Originator Program, across the country. We just do the Dodd-Frank compliance piece. We don't necessarily do the state compliance piece. Different states have different requirements. Some have no requirements. I'm in Arizona. We have no requirements on seller carryback. You go to Texas, there's lots of requirements. So it just depends on what state you're in. But we do the Dodd-Frank piece of the puzzle, and keep your nose clean when it comes to compliance there. So that's where we play in one sector of our business operation, is the RMLO process.
It's funny you say that, Mark. So I was originating notes in Columbus, Ohio, 2010, 2011, 2012. And then when the rules, was it 2012 or 13 that Dodd-Frank came
Well, actually it's 2010.
It was.
But then 2014 is when all of the remaining provisions came in.
Gotcha.
That's what it was. So I had heard about it. I'd learned a little bit about it. And we were looking around for an RMLO and could not find anybody. Like, just, they didn't seem to exist. I'd go and talk to like a mortgage broker or something like that. I'd say, so, I'm looking for somebody that can help me navigate Dodd-Frank. And they're like, Dodd who? Like, they had no idea what we were talking about. Yeah. So, knowing that this was a rule and that it was going to be, all the kind of fines and everything attached to it, it was an important enough thing. We eventually shut that down. I stopped originating because I knew that this was going to be a challenge and I couldn't find an RMLO. So we're glad to have you here. Yeah. This is an RMLO. This is somebody who can help you
nationwide too, which is unbelievable having you guys.
That's a big deal.
What is, in a quick summary, if someone says screw it and they create 50, 60, 20 loans without an RMLO, what's the consequence?
So, I don't know what the fines and penalties are because I've never played in that arena, thankfully. I haven't had to deal with that. I just know that the Dodd-Frank has teeth, and it can make someone's life pretty unbearable. So fines and obviously cease and desist and all sorts of different things. If you don't have, the thing that people don't realize is that seller carrybacks generally are created between a buyer and a seller. Simply, somebody has a house, they want to sell it, and they want to be the bank for the buyer. Right. And you'd think that was a simple capitalistic kind of activity, but Dodd-Frank comes in and steps into the way and says, no, that's not the way you can do it. And I personally think that the act is misplaced. I really don't see any reason for it, nor do I see any reason for my activities, honestly. You don't need me. If Dodd-Frank wasn't there, you wouldn't need me. But because it's there, there's this sense that you got to play by the rules.
Yeah. And you don't want to be known as that lender who doesn't do it right. Attorneys will jump all over that. Right. Your borrowers will talk to their attorney when something goes default and things start changing. All this stuff's going to start twinkling down, and that attorney is going to, with their teeth, is going to go after that lender and hit every loan that you guys own. So be sure you get talking with Mark about what you're doing and what states you're in and stuff like that. So, Mark, we've run across a lot of these owner finance people who, oddly enough, never heard of actually selling their note. Let's get back to, is it legal to sell a note?
Absolutely. A note is a negotiable instrument, just like a stock or a bond is. And so it can can be marketed and sold in the same vein that any other type of financial instrument can be sold. The beauty of it is that it's generally done on the private side of the market. I mean, it's between you and me. It's not sold on Wall Street, although you can find companies that have hundreds of notes for sale at any given time. But generally, it's going to be a one-on-one type of situation. So somebody sells a piece of property, carries it back, they're happy with the terms, and then something in their life changes and they need some cash, and this note is something that they can utilize to achieve some cash.
Yep.
And last week talked about some of the advanced strategies of no partials, which triggered us to talk to you about, are seller finance people familiar with this idea of selling a partial of their payments? And it seemed to us that they're not super familiar with it, and they're kind of uncertain about it. And then we ran the numbers with you, it kind of questioned why they don't know more about it, because the money they can make in a quick kind of cup of it, the money, and then hold the back end seems to be a win-win for them as well as for us.